You know, Mike, one of my favorite things that we've ever talked about, it's studying it was one of the things that made me want to start a podcast in the first place, was people disappearing, and not just somebody going somewhere and not coming back and not being found, but people actually disappearing in front of people.
It wasn't our third episode that we ever did, Strange Disappearances.
Yeah, Vanishings, I think it was called.
Yeah. And then shortly after, we did it again with Aldo for the first time.
Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yeah, Aldo
Poe. God damn it. Aldo, if you're out there, just let us know you're alive, man. I know you live inland, but I fear that you may have been eaten by sharks.
Uh-oh.
Let us know. Come home, buddy. Come home.
But yeah, there's so many shocking stories of that actually happening, but there's something else that happens supposedly that's just as strange, and that's people appearing out of nowhere. You've heard a couple of stories like that, haven't you?
Like where the stranger shows up and says he's from some place that doesn't exist, and you're like, what? And then just disappears, fades out like nothing.
Yeah,
those type of deals. Yeah,
those are always interesting stories, and I believe we've talked about the most classic story of a case of this happening, but we're going to touch on it again because it's such a fun fucking story. And this took place October 26, 1593. A guard at the Plaza Mayor in Mexico City, Mexico, noticed an odd man stumbling around, staring wide-eyed at everything and everybody around him. And he found it strange, so he approached the guy. And as he did approach him, he realized that he was wearing the uniform of a Philippine soldier. And that shocked the guard enough that he just arrested the dude. He couldn't believe that a foreign soldier, of all people, would be able to make his way to the center of town undetected, as the area was heavily fortified and guarded due to the palace being nearby, which housed the local viceroy. But the man was questioned, and lucky enough, he spoke Spanish, believe it or not. And that was because he was from Spain. His name was Gil Perez. Said he was a soldier in the Spanish army stationed in the Philippines. When they asked him how he got to Mexico, moreover into the plaza, he said he didn't know. He said that he was on patrol. Security had been heightened due to the sudden assassination of the Filipino governor general. And he said that while on patrol, he decided to take a break and sat against the wall. And he says he closed his eyes for a second. And when he opened his eyes, he was in the plaza in Mexico. Now, the authorities in Mexico had not heard of any news about any assassinations. They had open trade with the Philippines at the time. There's ships coming in and out from the Philippines and other places all the time. But since they hadn't heard of that and his story sounded so odd, they didn't believe him. And they actually said, you know, if you did just appear here like that, that must be the work of the devil. And they branded him a devil worshiper. And they locked him up pending some religious trial.
Wow. What is this? Fucking witch trials? This is bullshit.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of weird to deal with it. I'm sure they just had to sit there and think about it for a while. I don't know how I'd handle that. I'd try to contact somebody from the Philippines or Spain right away, which I don't know if they did, but he actually sat in that cell for almost 3 months. And he sat there for that long until a ship from the Philippines came. The guards that were there at the port saw that this boat was from the Philippines, and they told them the story about this Gil Perez. And the guards led the sailors to Gil Perez and explained the situation. And they, on the way there, they had talked about how Gil spoke of this assassination, and they confirmed, yeah, that was true. That the governor general had been assassinated. So they took they took him to Gil, and one of the sailors explained that he was in fact a soldier in the Spanish army, And one of them actually recognized Gil and said that he had seen Gil about 3 days before he disappeared in Mexico or in the Philippines. So apparently it looks like whatever trip he took 3 days. And the Mexican authorities knew that Gil could not have made that trip from the Philippines to Mexico in 3 days. No way, no how. So that they decided it was best to avoid a possibly deadly Jesus trial, as well as starting a possible war with Spain for killing one of its soldiers, and they let Gil return to the Philippines on the ship. So he didn't just kind of disappear. He actually was able to return to where he said he was from. But that's the classic tale you hear about people showing up out of nowhere when you read into this stuff. And it's one of my favorites. I love it. It doesn't get too goofy. I mean, Gil says he doesn't know how it happened. There was no giant boom tube of light and thunder or anything like that. He just closed his eyes.
Literally just closed his eyes and opened them again, and he was in a different place.
Yeah.
That's weird.
They say the official records of this happening have been lost to time, but this is one of the stories that always stands out. And I love the story. I don't care if it's real. Like a good episode of Twilight Zone.
It is like a good episode of Twilight Zone. It's very weird.
The weirder the better, though. I remember the first time I heard that story, how blown away I was for a while. I was like, wow. Even just, of course, it could be bullshit like everything, but just the implications of something like that happening, and then reading about the missing people in the parks. It's like almost a legitimate concern for me. I don't want to just walk into an invisible wall and disappear from everything.
Dude, when I first heard of the missing 411 stuff, like that legitimately scared the shit out of me. I remember at my old house, across the street from me, I had forests and there was like a baseball field, and I had a friend who lived on the other side, and I had to cross through the park and through the field, and it was surrounded by woods, and I had like just heard when David Paulides was on Coast to Coast. This was probably 10 years ago, maybe. Yeah, I'd say probably around 10 years ago. And I was walking to his house one night, and it's all dark, and I'm hearing all the nighttime sounds and stuff, which I'm used to and everything. But then I start to think, what is it that's taking these people? And like I just I freaked myself out. I'm like, oh God. And now whenever we go on hikes and stuff, I don't let the kids get out of my sight for fear they're gonna walk in and just disappear behind a bush or something.
Yeah, I totally don't mean to laugh, because that's literally what's going on in a lot of these cases. And unfortunately, there has been children that have gone missing in that way. And I totally don't mean to laugh, but I totally get what you're saying. I remember when you lived at your old house and you talked about how the woods were just behind your house. And I, genuinely had to ask a couple times, you ain't hanging out, you ain't hanging out over there in the woods, are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like it was dense woods or anything, but it was enough to get the imagination going.
Oh yeah, my one of my kids had a field trip shortly after hearing the 411 stuff, and I remember them playing around this really big tree, and they're just running around it, and it just made me kind of just like get uncomfortable enough to where I was like, all right, come over here. I don't need you to not run around.
Get away from the tree.
Yeah.
The trees are dangerous.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of how I felt, actually. I was like, you could just not come out the other side of that tree. So let's come over here now.
That tree will eat you. Get away. You put the fear of trees in your kid's head. Like all the other kids are climbing trees. And they're like, no, we will not climb the tree. The tree will eat us. I know that trees they have a hunger for human flesh. Don't climb the trees.
No, the trees just like cut a line in the time fabric and stuff you somewhere else. You just disappear.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, with the amount of trees that get cut down every year, can you blame them? I'd want to eat us too.
Maybe that's what people should be worrying about, is the great tree revenge of 2022.
Yeah. It's coming, man. It's right around the bend. We're all fucked. See, what they do, they've been luring us into a false sense of security for millennia now. they're like, oh no, we're just purifying your air and providing tasty fruits. We're good. We're wonderful. Just leading us into a false sense of security. But you know what? They're going to hold their breath for a really long time. They can hold their breath for like months. And all of a sudden our air is going to be filled with carbon dioxide and we're all going to choke to death. And as we're sitting there choking and in the last gasps before we die, we see the trees moving in. The roots just pop up from the ground and they start walking towards your suffocating body.
Oh.
And as your vision blurs and goes dark, the last thing you see is a tree reaching down to grab you and stuff you in his mouth. So that's what we have to look forward to, guys.
Yeah.
Live while you can, because soon the trees are coming. So on that note, I've got a story that has nothing to do with trees. But my case, so you've got the weird weird appearances, and then you've got another magical story you're gonna tell. But my story isn't so much like strange, in the way like mystical or paranormal or supernatural, anything like that. It's weird in like a unsolved mysteries sort of way.
Ooh, I like unsolved mystery ways.
Yeah, like what the fuck is going on? Why did any of this happen? And it's one of those cases where it's you just have pieces to the puzzle, but you can't see the whole picture, and it just drives you fucking nuts.
Yeah, those were my favorite types of Unsolved Mysteries episodes. They had a lot of cool stuff on there that you'd be like, oh shit, that was cool. But every once in a while, they drop them heavy episodes to where you could just go, huh.
Yeah, like on the new ones that they put out on Netflix, I think it was the first episode, where the dude fell through a hole in the roof of this fucking hotel, and his body was found in the hotel room that came through a hole. And his cell phone was outside of the hole on the roof.
What?
How did that happen? Like it's fucking crazy. And you've got the pieces. All the pieces are there. You just can't make any sense of it.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah. So my story is it's an older case. It's the case of David Glenn Lewis, and this goes all the way back to January of 1993. So long ass time ago. I was a young lad and settling in to enjoy the Super Bowl because the Bills were playing Dallas, and at the time I gave a shit about football because I was fucking 12.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was a time in my life where I would watch the footballs. And my family are like everyone in my family, all my brothers, my dad, my uncles, they're all massive Buffalo Bills fans. So, it's kind of a big deal. Buffalo Bills are in the Super Bowl again. Fuck yeah, let's go. But that's neither here nor there. The story begins on January 28th, 1993. And David Lewis's wife and daughter had planned a shopping trip. They lived in Amarillo, Texas, and they had planned to spend the weekend in Dallas on a shopping trip. There's not a clear reason why David stayed behind. In some reports, Karen and Lauren had, well, I guess more Karen, because Lauren was, she was a young girl at the time. So Karen had planned this trip so that they could leave David by himself to watch the Super Bowl without any interruptions, because they didn't give a shit about it. And David was pretty pumped about it because the Dallas Cowboys were in the Super Bowl, and he was from Amarillo, Texas. So he was like, fuck yeah, Cowboys. But Karen also later said that he thought he might have to work. And David was a lawyer, and it wasn't out of the ordinary for him to have to do work on a weekend. So anyway, they went to Dallas for the weekend to go on a shopping trip. David had previously expressed his desire to record the game on VHS. At the time, they didn't. I guess their VCR wasn't they weren't able to program it so that it would just start and stop. So he actually had to be there to hit record. So on the night of the 31st, the game was scheduled to start at 5:30, and the VCR evidence shows that the VCR did start recording at the start of the game. By 11:15 that night, Karen and Lauren arrived home, and David wasn't there, but the VCR was still recording. And the fact that the VCR is still recording is important because it shows that somebody was there at the start of the game and hit record on the VCR and just let it keep recording. Now, a typical football game is usually a little over 3 hours, and it was still recording at 11:15. So he must have had one of those for anyone who remembers VHS, like having to record shit on TV. You'll remember there were different tapes that you could get. You could get the 4 hour, the 6 hour, or the 8 hour. And this one must have been one of the 6 hour ones. I don't know.
Yeah, some of them actually had a setting that you could switch it to where it would record slower and then you play it back at a raised speed. So it would save tape.
Yep. It would usually lower the quality a little bit, but
yeah.
This was the fucking 90s, so we didn't have HD, so if it was a little fuzzier than normal, it wasn't really that big of a deal. But anyway, the VCR was still recording. There was a clean load of laundry in the dryer. There were 2 fresh turkey sandwiches that were made on a plate in the fridge. David's watch and wedding ring were left on the counter, and his car was missing when they got there. So Karen had assumed that maybe David went somewhere else or to watch the game, or maybe went to a bar or something, and figured he'd be home. The game was over, so she figured he'd be home anytime. And he didn't show up that night. So the next day, when he still wasn't around, she reported him missing. The following day, his SUV was spotted outside of the Potter County Courthouse. Upon an inspection by the police, they found his license, his credit cards, and checks all in the car, as well as a key to his house. So they begin the investigation on February 1st. And throughout the investigation, they found out a few things. One, Karen had told the police that a few weeks earlier, David's life had been threatened. And he didn't give her the details on what had happened, just that he seemed to be really bothered by it, really freaked out by it. And it came out that David was involved in this high-stakes lawsuit against his former employer, which was a law firm called Ham, Irwin, Graham, and Cox. And the lawsuit was for conflict of interest. There was a rich client who was suing them for conflict of interest. And David had stated previously that he intended to tell the truth and that he wouldn't minimize any wrongdoing on the part of his former employers. And he was determined to testify against them the week following his disappearance. So literally the next week after he was, if he had not disappeared, he was going to be testifying against his former employer. And he apparently had some pretty powerful testimony that was going to potentially harm his former employer. So the police, they continued the investigation. A couple weeks after the investigation began, they found that there were 2 plane tickets that were purchased in his name. The first one was purchased on January 31st, which was the night of the Super Bowl, and it was purchased from Dallas Airport to Amarillo Airport. The second one was purchased the following day and it was purchased from Los Angeles to Dallas. And they were both purchased in his name. So after some investigation went by, they weren't able to figure out what had happened to him, but the police were able to put together a timeline of the, weird, I guess, what had happened while his wife and daughter were out of town. So we begin Thursday, the 28th of January. That day he left work around noon, claiming that he was sick, but he still showed up to teach a class at the local college that he taught later that evening and seemed fine. Friday, the 29th, he was spotted rushing through Southwest Airlines terminal at an airport, but he had no luggage with him, but he was running through the terminal. Saturday, the 30th, there was a deposit into his bank account of $5,000, and the neighbor that lived next door reported that David's SUV was in the driveway all day. On the 31st, David was spotted at the court building with his SUV. For some reason, he was taking pictures of his SUV from across the street, which doesn't seem to make sense. And then on Monday, the 1st of February, there was a taxi driver in Dallas who claimed that he drove a man matching David's description from a hotel in Dallas to the Dallas airport. And he did mention that the man in his car seemed to be nervous, and when it came time to pay, he was fumbling through a wad of $100 bills to pay the taxi driver.
Wow.
And that is the last time that David was reported by anyone, really.
Yikes! It sounds like a dude on the run.
But the weird thing is, on the night of the 1st of February, in Yakima, Washington, 10:30 at night, there was a man spotted walking on the side of a highway who was wearing military-style clothes and boots, just walking by himself down a highway. There was a driver who passed him, but thought it was weird that someone was walking alone on a highway at this hour of night. So he decided to turn around at the next, I don't know what the hell you call them. You know those areas in the median that you can make a U-turn on a highway?
Yeah.
He drove up till he found one of those, took the U-turn, and came back. By the time he came back around, he saw the man that he had previously seen walking was now laying on the side of the road, and he saw a Chevy Camaro speed away. So he pulled up. The guy on the side of the road was dead. He was dead at the scene. The cops came. They investigated. They weren't able to find any information on a Camaro that had been in an accident. They never tracked down who the hit and run was, and they chalked it all up to being an accident and kind of left it at that. The man had no ID, nothing on him that could identify him in any way. He was wearing military fatigues, and he was dead on the road. They did run blood tests on him. He had no alcohol or drugs at all in his system, and they had no idea who he was. They looked into it. He didn't match the description of anyone missing in the state, so they left it. And it became a cold case file, along with David's case. The reason I bring this up is because in 2004, there was a Washington state detective named Peter Ditter. And Peter, he felt like it was his mission to try to help identify missing people or John Doe cases or Jane Doe cases, as whatever case they are, and try to either bring closure to families that are missing people or try to help solve some cases. But he came across this case of the John Doe who was hit and run, and he was looking at the pictures, and this is the early 2000s now, so there's a lot more technology at his fingertips, at an investigator's fingertips. So he starts cross-referencing pictures of this John Doe, and he comes across 4 potential matches, one of them being David. The only thing was that David was always known to wear glasses, and this guy who got hit by a car did not have any glasses on him. But when he looked at the report, it was reported that there were eyeglasses found in his pocket. So he starts putting all the pieces together. They run DNA evidence, and it's determined that this is, in fact, David. This guy in Washington on the 1st. And again, the taxi driver drove David to the airport on the morning of the 1st, and then that night he was in Washington and got hit by a car. His wife claims that never at any point did he own any military gear or military fatigues or military clothes. He didn't own those boots that he was wearing, and she had no idea why he would have been there. He didn't know anybody in Washington. It just didn't make sense. But now that everything comes together, it makes things even stranger, because looking at the timeline, we can see that on the 31st, he was spotted at the court building taking pictures of his own car. But on the evening of the 31st, somebody was at his house to hit record on the VCR and make sandwiches and do a load of laundry.
Right.
So it seems a little fishy that someone who is about to go on the run would bother recording the Super Bowl, would bother doing a load of laundry, and would bother making sandwiches. And then, and if you think about it, his car was found on the 1st. So the following day, his car was found in that parking lot that he was seen taking pictures of that morning. So he would have had to leave his car there and then somehow get back to his house, do all this shit like everything's normal, then get a ride out of his house and to an airport. And there's no record of him making any flights away. The only tickets that were purchased was a ticket from Dallas to Amarillo and a ticket from LA to Dallas. There was no tickets to Washington. And doesn't it seem weird that he would make if he was in Dallas in the morning and he was picked up from a hotel on the 1st, that would mean that he was likely there that night on the 31st. So he would have left Amarillo sometime after the Super Bowl started without his car. So he got a ride from Amarillo to either the Amarillo airport or they drove to Dallas. If it was at Amarillo airport, he bought a ticket from Dallas to Amarillo, but there's no record of him buying a ticket from Amarillo to Dallas. Likewise, there's not any record of him buying a ticket from Dallas to Los Angeles, but there is a record of him buying a ticket from Los Angeles to Dallas. So they seem like he's buying tickets for return trips, but there's no record of him buying tickets to the places. And clearly, he got a ticket at some point along the way to go to Washington, because that's where he ended up that night. And why was he in military fatigues? Why was he walking alone down a highway? Why did he leave his license and everything he had behind and only take a wad of cash? And where did the cash come from? Because it wasn't missing from his bank account.
So,
Yeah, because I mean, they solved the John Doe case, but that just makes the starting case even weirder.
Right.
You know, like we don't know what was going on. And if he was on the run, it would make sense that he would leave stuff behind, but it does. Where he went to Washington, for what reason, we don't know. Why was he wearing military fatigues? Why was he walking alone on a highway at night?
Were all these flights redeemed? I mean, did he go on these flights? Or were just the tickets purchased?
No, because the tickets were purchased, but there was no... He didn't make the return flights.
Whoa.
But you also have to keep in mind, this is the 90s as well. So, for one, they weren't monitoring the people like they used to. Like it could have been like he bought a ticket and that's all they record, the purchase of that ticket. And at the time, you didn't even need a photo ID to buy plane tickets. This was pre 9/11, before all those rules and regulations came in. You could just go in and say, "Hi, I'm Bob Shoemaker, and I would like to buy a ticket." And they're like, "Here you go, Mr. Shoemaker." And you just made up that name, but you're traveling under an alias now. Yeah, it was a simpler time back then.
So he could have very well shit, no, because he bought the tickets under his name, so he couldn't have gone on the plane
right
using an alias.
Right, but he could have got on the plane using an alias, and maybe he was trying to throw someone off, so he used his name for the return tickets that he bought, but not for the destination tickets.
Okay.
So, maybe he's trying to throw him off, like, oh, he just bought a ticket to come back from Los Angeles, so must be he's going to be in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, he's in Washington.
Yeah, because he's going to have to be flying to make these locations on these dates, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going from Texas to Washington, driving, I'm going to look that up right now to see how long that takes, because I'm pretty sure it's going to take you fucking forever. So let's take a look. Yeah, so if you were to drive and taking the highway, the direct route, it's going to take you 23 hours and 39 minutes.
Wow.
So it would be impossible for him to have driven that distance in one day. So he clearly took a plane, but there's no record of him taking a plane anywhere. So he had to have used a different name, and he would have had to have paid in cash.
Which he apparently had on him. It sounds like a MK Ultra double agent or something.
The weirdest thing to me is, why was he wearing military fatigues and walking down a highway at night?
Yeah,
by himself.
That's the weirdest detail of the story.
Like you go to Washington. Like, I can understand disappearing and going to Washington to just to disappear, because who has ever heard of Yakima, Washington that's not around there? Like, yeah, you're not. People aren't going to be like, I bet he went to Yakima, Washington. No. So, like, I could see, I mean, I don't know why he chose that place, but I could see hiding out somewhere unassuming. But then to be dressed in military fatigues and walking alone down the highway like he's fucking Rambo, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you doing? If you're going to be hiding out, wouldn't you be, and especially if you had a wad of hundreds, like, you could go stay somewhere.
Right.
But he was just walking down the street, or down the highway, rather, in the middle of the night.
That's so weird.
Without his glasses. He wasn't wearing his glasses. He had them with him, but he wasn't wearing them, even though he needed the glasses.
Yeah, they were in his pocket.
Right.
Well, I wonder if Unsolved Mysteries has done an episode on this story. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know it's not on the new ones, at least, but I don't know about if they've ever done one.
Yeah, there's a couple cool YouTube channels that they cover solving old cases or cold cases, and they've actually covered a couple stories that were from Unsolved Mysteries, and they've actually cracked some of those cases. It's
nice.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Well, another case that I came across that I found beyond interesting, it's almost as good as Mr. Gil Perez's story, but this is a story of Rudolph Fens, and this took place in 1950 in New York City. It's reported that a man in 19th century clothing was seen wandering aimlessly in the middle of an intersection. The man was suddenly hit and killed by a taxi cab. And as the police arrived, they began to secure the scene and question witnesses. And it seemed like everyone that had witnessed the accident noticed this out-of-place man due to his dated attire. The police, as well as the witnesses, noticed how pristine and clean his clothes were for being so old, I guess is a term. They weren't old in wear, but from a different time. The officers searched the man's body, and they found quite a bit of things. First, they found banknotes that predated 1870. There was a copper token to an unknown, unheard of saloon. There was a bill from a horse and carriage service dated 1875, and a handwritten letter dated 1876. The police first took this guy as being some sort of maybe hipster running around in his grandpa's vintage Dodge or something, but they soon found a business card in his coat pocket, complete with his name and address. Now, a detective who was in charge of missing people was dumbfounded by the case and the items that they found, and he decided to follow through with the investigation. So he went to the address that was on this business card, but it didn't exist. And he asked the people who lived in the area if they had ever heard of Rudolph Fentz, and no one had. He knew it was a long shot, but he looked up the name Rudolph Fentz in the phone directory, and he found a Rudolph Fentz Jr., and that had a phone number and an address. So he went to the address, and he found an elderly woman there, and she said that she was Rudolph Fentz Jr.'s widow. And now the detective informed her of his investigation and what was going on and how it led him to her house. And she said that, in fact, her husband's father vanished after going for a walk in 1876 at the age of 31. And that startled the detective because the body of the man that they found, they aged him to be 30 years old. And he compared some records from 1876 and found that there was a filing for a missing person, somebody disappearing named Rudolph Fentz in 1876. There were photos included in that file, and they matched the photos that were presented by this widow, and it seemed to be Rudolph Fentz. He just somehow ended up in a busy New York City intersection in the 1950s. Now that one too kind of plays out like a really great episode of The Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this story, and it's not a true story.
No, it's not. We try our best not to just say stuff on this show. And right before we started,
maybe you do.
But right before we started, I took a look at this stuff, and without digging too far, you'll find that Rudolph Fentz is a character from a science fiction short story called "I'm Scared" by Jack Finney. So
yep.
When I came across this, I came across it a few places, and it wasn't presented as an urban legend or a creepy tale. It was presented as pure fact.
Well, there's a reason for it, though, and there's a lot of, with this story, there is, I think it gets mixed up because there have been occasions where the story was presented as being real. There was, the disappearance and reappearance was mentioned in 1972 in a book by Victor Farkas. It had appeared in 2000 in a Spanish magazine called Mas Ala. And both of these, when it was being published, was being presented as being a real story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, after the 2000 incarnation of the story, there was a researcher named Chris Aubeck who actually investigated the story to check on whether or not this was true. And as he was reading it, he found an article that goes back to also 1972 in an issue of this publication called the Journal of Borderland Research. And when it was put in this journal, it was published as being a factual account of events that happened.
Oh.
This journal was published by a group called the Borderland Science Research Foundation. And this group was known for explaining UFO sightings with like occult explanations.
Huh.
And they, the magazine, the source that they credited in the magazine article was a book from 1953 called A Voice from the Gallery by Ralph Holland. And for a while, this was determined that this was the origin of the story, was A Voice from the Gallery. But he actually wrote a piece himself about the whole story. And after publishing his article on the story, he was contacted and was told about the earlier story written by Jack Finney called I'm Scared. And that was published in 1951, so a year or 2 years before the book that was being credited in the 1972 article. So it's got this weird kind of convoluted thing where it's been told and retold, and it's just kind of the original story is forgotten about, and it's just kind of taking on this urban legend type of life, I guess, where it's just like, oh man, did you hear the Rudolph fence thing? And he just fucking appeared out of nowhere. It's crazy.
You listing the things where they appeared later, I mean, I would have believed it as being factual too if that's the way they were reporting it. I mean, you're going to run into those types of writings before a 1951 science fiction short story that was probably in a magazine, you know? But yeah, that one I still wanted to share it because it was such an interesting case, and I'm sure that if you look up this stuff that you're going to run into it, but that one, I was shocked to see that it was just clear bullshit, but it was more shocking to see how factual people were presenting that.
Yeah, it's like a lot of those things, they just kind of take on a life of their own, and people love a good mystery, and people also like to be scared, so you have something that's out of the norm that is kind of scary, and people are gonna, help spread that word.
Yeah. What if everything's a lie?
Everything is a lie. What do you mean, what if? I'm lying to you right now. About what? I don't know. But I am. Like I said, I'm just a voice in a computer. There's no humanity behind this voice. I'm an AI that was built by barn owls, and I'm just here to fill your ears with bullshit. So you can trust me when I say that everything I say is a lie.
I've always said if this is some type of, what do they call it, like simulation theory, like we're living in some type of program.
Yeah.
It's a shitty-ass program.
It really is. Like, give me a good program, at least. Like, something that's fun or enjoyable. Like, whoever concocted this program is a fucking sadist.
Yeah, I just want one permanent glitch that's awesome. Like, oh shit, horses fly now. That's just the way it is now.
Or I fart rainbows.
Ooh, hell yeah. We can go on the road.
Yeah, dude. Farting rainbows and flying horses.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.